Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending the final workshop session for Houston Money Week. We have today Lisa Hatfield-Gonzalez and Arrianna O'Quinn from the UHD Career Center. They will be talking about planning your career, understanding your paycheck, benefits, and LinkedIn. Today's title is The Social Network of Career Planning and Success. Please know that if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them or ask them for you. Place them in the chat if you're too shy to ask them yourself. I will happily hand this over to Lisa and Arrianna. And guys, know that you are in for a really awesome presentation. The one from 10 a.m. was so amazing. I have already scheduled my appointment with Lisa and Arrianna. So please be aware that this is going to be dope.
Thank you, Tam. Okay, bear with me, y'all. Okay, can someone tell me yes if you can see our screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you all again for joining us here on this Friday afternoon. My name is Arrianna O'Quinn. As she mentioned, I am the new career coach to the University College. And then I also have Lisa Marie Gonzalez Hatfield with us as well. And she is the career coach and liaison to College of Public Service. And we're just going to talk to you today about career planning, LinkedIn, understanding your money. And that means your benefits, compensation, taxes, anything that you might see on your paycheck and do not recognize. In the middle of this presentation, please feel free to stop us for any questions. You don't feel pressure to have to hold them to the end, especially if you think we may be deviating far from your question. Definitely let us know and we can stop and answer your questions. Also, throughout the presentation, we'll have a few links and we will also provide those links at the end for your convenience to be able to click on them. But before I get started, Lisa, did you want to say anything?
I think you pretty much covered it. So I'll just say hello, everybody. Very happy to be here with all of you on this Friday afternoon. And as Ari mentioned, please feel free to ask us any questions. We promise we will not judge and we'll do our best to address any questions that you might have.
Awesome. Okay, so first, let me just give you a little bit of background about where we are located and what we do. So Lisa and I are both from the Main Career Center, and we serve all students in the colleges of Humanities and Social Sciences, Public Service, Science and Technology, and University College. The only majors we do not service are the College of Business, and that is because you all have your own career center located in the street building, which is the business building. We do essentially the same things, offer the same opportunities and events to students. It's just a more focused career center for their majors. So for us, you'll see our respective coaches for each of our colleges, and we do things like self-assessments, career coaching, resume or cover letter reviews, mock interviews for if you have an upcoming interview and you need some help, career fairs, online job board, and then job and internship search strategies. And so that just includes helping you locate organizations or employers, or even just showing you how to go about your search, are all things that we can help you with. We offer drop-in hours, and so does College of Business, and you can see the information below. We have our Zoom link. Drop-ins can be, in person, over the phone, or even on Zoom. And so we have our link, and then there are only 15-minute sessions for us, and for COB, there are 10-minute sessions. So keep in mind that if you are trying to do a drop-in, that you may not get a full 30-minute session or a multiple 30-minute session as you would if you schedule the appointment yourself on our job board. And I'll talk about that in a second. So we have a job board for the non-business majors called Jobs for Gators. And on the business side, it's Gator Hired. They're essentially the same system. They do the same things. They are just a different login process for the different colleges. And what they both do is allow students to upload documents for resume reviews, cover letter reviews, any type of professional document that you'd like one of our coaches to look over. You can do that on the sites. We also offer events where you can RSVP or just get the general information about the event. And then also it serves as a job board. So if you go through the resume review process with the coach and your resume gets approved, you will then have access to see and search for jobs or internships that are located on our site that employers post directly with us. And so that's a great way to begin, looking at what's available to you and what you might have ready whenever you're looking to do your internship time, or even just graduating and you're looking for a job or something in your field. So if you have not already, you want to activate your Jobs for Gators or Gator Hired account. Every student has an account. It just needs to be activated if you haven't done so. And so all you need is your Blackboard ID, which is your username, and then your password. If for some reason it doesn't work, you can just give either office a call, that depending on your major, and we'll be able to do a password reset for you. So let's talk a little bit about things that employers are looking for. So these are career competencies. These are not things that the Career Center thought of or came up with, or just kind of guessed. These are things that were provided to the National Association of Colleges and Employers, and they surveyed employers, and this is what the employers basically indicated that they are looking for in their new hires or college graduates. So of course, no brainer: critical thinking, communication, leadership, professionalism, teamwork, technology, equity and inclusion, career, and self-development. These are all things that whenever you are interviewing with companies or even just on the job working, they're looking to see how you possess or demonstrate these competencies. And so if you are not familiar with these, or if this is something new to you, you are already developing these competencies, whether you think so or not. So even in your classrooms, you are probably doing some teamwork. I'm sure you're doing some critical thinking, and then amongst other things like technology, using Blackboard or any other type of system or simulation that your professor has assigned to you. Those are also helping you build these competencies that the employers are looking for. Also, one really important one is communication. Communication is really important simply because you don't realize how much you communicate and how you can take each of those times as an opportunity to develop yourself, and then also just become more effective in the way that you communicate. Remember, communication is not only verbal, it is also how you send a text or an email, or even just your approach to a situation. And so you want to make sure that you are communicating in a way that demonstrates who you are and your values, so that when you are speaking to an employer or a potential network relationship, you are putting your best foot forward and demonstrating to them that you can communicate well. So we like to say, make a list and check it twice. We've already crossed the first thing off and we made the list for you. So we have a 4-year checklist that we like our students to refer to, and it helps you to ensure your employability by the time you graduate. And so we're going to explore this checklist, and let me know if you all can see this checklist.
We can.
Perfect. So this checklist goes through the 4 years of your academic career here at UHD. Starting off as a freshman, you want to make sure that you are exploring and connecting with people. And by exploring, that means figuring out what you can do with your major, the opportunities that are possible for you, and then also just making sure you meet new people, because even meeting them can help you discover new things about where your major can take you. And so part of the exploration process is to take a career assessment that we have here available to all UHD students and alumni, and it's called Focus to Career. And what it does is it's broken into several assessments that allow you to figure out what you like, or what your preferences are, and things that might be of an interest to you. And so your career coach uses that to be able to give you skills that you might want to start working on, or even projects and things that you might want to take on that'll help you become ready for a position or career in that field or path. And so also you want to make sure, in the same token, you are connecting with people. And so joining organizations, and even just talking with your advisors or coming to see your career coach is a networking and connection being made. And so you want to make sure that you are reviewing your resume, even though as a freshman, you may not have a ready to go resume. That's fine. That's what we're here for. So you come to us and we can get you started with your resume. That way you have something to go off of as you progress to becoming a sophomore, junior, and then senior. And then by the time you graduate, you should have a resume that better suits your career interests and can demonstrate to the employer that, you know, you've done the work and that you're ready to take that next step. As a sophomore, you want to make sure you are engaging and reflecting. You want to make sure as you progress that you don't forget the things that you have done the previous year. And so just make sure that you are staying up to date. Just as often as you see your advisor, you should also consider seeing your career coach to make sure that your goals and your paths are aligned. And that way you can determine what you should be looking to get out of your courses that would help you professionally with your career. Also, take the time to start visiting events and checking out job fairs and different things like that, because that is also where you get to learn a lot about the industry and then also the jobs that might be available for you at that moment. And so we offer several things throughout the semesters in both the academic year, and they are available to students free. And so it's there for you to take advantage, you know, just so you can develop yourself and be ready. As a junior, you want to make sure you plan and prepare. And that looks like revising your resume, making sure that you are now applying to maybe entry-level jobs or internship or something where you can now start getting some sort of field experience that complements your course load. So that way, when you are graduating, you have those skills and knowledge ready to demonstrate to the employer. And then lastly, as a senior, you're ready to act and achieve. And that means if you're planning to go to grad school, you need to submit your application or have your career coach take a look at your personal statement or whatever requirements are required by the program that you're trying to get into. And then you also want to begin your actual job search. And so that means, you know, applying to jobs that fit your interests, your level, and then just making sure you're ready to interview with them. We do mock interviews, and so you can schedule an appointment with us. And if you have the position in mind that you'd like to interview for, that works perfect, because then your career coach can tailor those questions to the interview to help you better prepare for them and just to make you feel a little more confident in, you know, putting that best foot forward for that employer. Did anyone have any questions about our services and the checklist or anything? And we'll also provide this link too. Okay, so with that, I did mention a focus too. And so that's a career assessment. We have this available again to all students. And what it does is just allows your coach to better service you. So that means if you're confused about your major, if you're confused about what type of jobs might be open to you, this is the assessment for you. This assessment allows you and your coach to see your work interests, maybe some skills and personality sections that can guide you to the appropriate major. And so you can take it as many times as you want. We do know people change and things change. And so with that, if you take it as a freshman, we highly encourage you to take it again, at least before you graduate, because you never know that, you know, something may have changed with you and you may not want to do a certain thing anymore. And so you may answer your questions a little bit differently, which will then yield a different outcome. And so it's really important to stay up to date with not only your academics, but also your career planning. And we do have the link available here as well in the access code, which is really important. So if you are one that wants to know a little bit more about your major, or maybe you have some uncertainty, on our website, we have what we call major handouts. And so these handouts allow you to see all about your major. If you were a little uncertain about what your major really was or like what it entailed, we have this little section here to the right called what is, for instance, what is psychology? And so you can see here, it gives a little blurb about what it is. So that way you have a better understanding of what you're actually getting into and what you should be expecting to get out of your courses by the end of your academic career. And so here you also can see some related titles of jobs that you might be interested in if you are pursuing this major. So here you can see for psychology, there's protective services specialist, client advocate, etc. And so this handout gives you all you need to know about this major. And this also serves as a good piece for someone that is contemplating on changing their major. Let's say their major is something else and they're looking to do psychology, then they can come and look at this and then go back and look at their current major handout to see which one better suits them. And so they also can take a look at the partnerships that are in the community with related to this major. So you see MD Anderson is here, the Arbor School. And so these handouts provide you just a quick snapshot of what is available to you potentially if you pursue this degree. We also like to encourage our students to look at ONET online, which is also found on our website. And this is a site where if you could think of any particular job title, you can search it. And what it does is it provides you all of the information needed for it. It tells you the recommended or required education for it. It tells you the skills, knowledge, and abilities that you will need to possess in order to obtain a position like this. It gives you salaries, averages, just different things and statistics that you need about that position. So that way you have a guide to see what you need to work on in order to obtain or at least be able to qualify to work in that position. So what is networking? You should be doing it, and I believe that each of you are already doing it. You are a student here and you are taking classes, which means that you are interacting with your professors and with your classmates. That is a form of networking. You text people, you guys have group chats, group messages, things like that, Blackboard messages. That's networking with people, whether you think so or not. And it is because you never know what type of opportunity or relationship that might spiral from that. And so we like to say it's just about getting to know people, building the relationship, and it may result in an opportunity for you. So it's best to start this early, and which is why this is under the checklist and freshman section, because you want to make sure that by the time you graduate, you have a network of people that you can call on for like a recommendation or even just to talk to them about their experience and how they got started with their journey. And so we want to make sure you're not networking to say, I want a job, or you're networking so when this person comes across a job, they think of you. And so you want to make sure they're genuine. That's what often leads to best relationships, is when they're genuine and they're not, focused on getting something out of it. And so people basically do business with the people they already know and like. And I know we all know that, sometimes we feel like there's a little bias in hiring, but if someone is able to vouch for your work, the company's more than likely to hire you, because not only maybe you did a great interview, but then there's a person that already works there that says, no, this person is great. They can do the job. And so then from that point forward, you got the job simply because of the person that was in your network. So job listings tend to draw piles of applicants, which means you'll be in competition with a lot of people, and networking makes you that recommended member. And so also the job you want may not be advertised at all, which again will allow that person in your network to be your advocate and get you that job. 70% of all jobs are found through networking per the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And it all starts with communication, which is one of our most important career competencies, because if you cannot communicate effectively, then essentially you get nothing out of it. So being able to speak to people and just be a charismatic person will get you that connection or a relationship that you're looking for with that individual. So who's a part of your network? That's your colleagues, so people you currently work with, supervisors, classmates, professors, family, friends, and clients. Sometimes people don't think of clients as their network, but clients can bring you more clients if you're in that type of industry. So for instance, for Lisa and I, we are coaches, and if she sees a student and her student loves what she did for her, then she'll go tell her friends. And so that's a network of students now that Lisa has. And although they're students, that doesn't mean that someone can't provide an opportunity for you. And so you want to look at things as more of equals rather than levels, although like supervisors are above us. However, they may be your best advocate for a promotion or for something else that is better for you. And so you want to make sure you don't exclude anyone from your network, especially a positive person in your life. So anyone you meet essentially becomes a part of your network, even like myself and Lisa, if this is your first time hearing from us. So let's pivot over to LinkedIn since we've done all this network talking. LinkedIn is one of those virtual platforms like a social app that you can use to network. And so I like to think of LinkedIn as a professional Instagram. And I say that because you can post pictures and updates and, you know, feelings and just all types of interactive pieces for people to see, just like you do on Instagram. However, it's all professional related. And so it's either relating to people getting promotions or making a career change, or even if someone is looking for a job, it's still a great place to go for all of these professionalism pieces. And so with that, LinkedIn, you can do an array of things, not only network, but then also find different opportunities available to you. Some of the statistics about LinkedIn is that more than 55 million companies are on the site, which means there are tons of jobs open, 14 million to be exact. And then there's also 87% of recruiters that use LinkedIn regularly. And this means, for instance, of those 14 million jobs that you might see, you click on it and it'll show you who the recruiter is for that position. And so that shows that there's an actual person recruiting for that position, which means if you apply on LinkedIn, more than likely they will be the one to see your application or resume, however you submitted it. And so networking with the recruiters or people in similar positions on LinkedIn matters. There's 122 million people that receive an interview through LinkedIn, with 35.5 million people hired by a person that they connected with. And 3 people are hired through LinkedIn every minute. So LinkedIn is definitely one of those sites that you don't want to skip over or overlook. I think you should essentially spend about the same amount of time that you would on Instagram on LinkedIn, especially if you are a career-driven person and you are trying to get to the right places. So I'm going to turn it over to Lisa to go ahead and some more detail about LinkedIn and how it can benefit you.
All right, thank you so much. So my colleague Wendy likes to refer to LinkedIn as the resume that never sleeps. And I love that because hiring recruiters have different hours sometimes than the rest of us. They may be looking for candidates at 11 o'clock at night or midnight or 1 or 2, and maybe the rest of us are sleeping. But they have access to this platform 24/7 to learn about all of the unique accomplishments that you bring to the table and the experiences and skills that you have. Obviously, you know, Ari talked about how important networking is. As she mentioned, we know over 70% of jobs are acquired through networking, and LinkedIn is just an excellent place to continue to build and grow your network. One of the things that I love about LinkedIn is that it gives you a unique opportunity to connect with individuals who are in roles that maybe you aspire to have, or work for an organization that you really would be interested in working for someday. So that's not an opportunity that we might normally have, to walk into this organization and say, hey, I would really like to meet your program coordinator. You know, that might be a little more complex, especially in this time of COVID. But LinkedIn allows for you to do that in a much simpler and safer way. Now, we also know that LinkedIn is an effective job and internship board. So studies are showing a trend where employers are posting more jobs to LinkedIn than they actually are to their own internal job boards or to their job website. So that's interesting to note. So this is definitely a resource to utilize when you are looking for a job or internship yourself. Now, I also think LinkedIn is good when it comes to connecting to alum from UHD. So we know that alum are very proud of their institution and they want to find ways to give back. And so one of the ways that they can do that maybe is if there are opportunities within their own offices, they may be able to connect a UHD student or alum with a position. So we do encourage you to connect with UHD alum on LinkedIn, and they do have an account. That way you can keep up with what other alum are doing, and if there are any opportunities of interest for you that they'll post on their page. So we know that LinkedIn is used by employers to do more research on candidates, as Ari talked about. I want to say the latest research says that it's 83% of hiring managers that are using LinkedIn to look you up. And here's the problem. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, studies show that the next most popular site that employers are using to research you is Facebook. So if your Facebook page is not, used for professional matters, maybe you're taking pictures of the things you're doing on the weekends, or if you're like me, you probably have 1,000 photos of your dogs, then this is probably not the best way for them to learn more about you and what you bring to the table. So LinkedIn, is social media, but focused on a more professional aspect, looking again at the experiences that you've had, the accomplishments that you've achieved in your career or education, and the skills that you bring to the table. And again, it's an opportunity to show those off. And I think one of the beautiful things about LinkedIn is that because it's social media, you get to have some personality in it. If we're writing about our experiences and skills in a resume, it's a little cold. It's concise. We know it has a limit. We've got to keep it to a page. And so when it comes to LinkedIn, we can elaborate a little more. We can provide more details. We can add photos and links to documents to showcase the projects and things that we're working on. So there's definitely more of an opportunity to really show what you can do, as well as give a taste to your personality. Again, resumes can be kind of cold where we're speaking from that third person perspective, but because LinkedIn is social media, we can have fun. We can use those personal pronouns and also just give a highlight of what our personality looks like. So here's a checklist of things that you should be considering to make your profile top notch. So let's start with the photo. So studies show that when your profile has a picture, it's 7 times more likely to be viewed. So that's important. And the photo doesn't have to be a professionally taken photo from a photo studio, if those even exist anymore. You can take it yourself. You can do a selfie, as long as the background behind you is simple. And we do encourage you to take a photo from shoulders and up where you're smiling. Studies do show that a smiling photo shows a more approachable and enthusiastic candidate. So I also do want to promote our Link Up with LinkedIn event. So once a month, we have an event called Link Up with LinkedIn where you come into our office and we can take a photo for you. We have a professional background. We've got these amazing lights and a camera. So if you would like for us to take the photo for you, you can come in. The next one is going to be on April 26th. So you can stop by our office and we can take the picture for you, or you can take it yourself using the Lumatic app. So we'll have all of the instructions for how to use that app if you want to do it yourself. Or like I said, you can come in and we can take it for you. Now you also see in this sample that there's a photo behind the profile picture. So it kind of goes across the page and it shows 4 individuals with that hashtag in it together. So I do encourage all of you that have a LinkedIn profile, if you don't have a picture there, to definitely add one. And it should be something that ties into the industry that you want to go into. I had a student recently, a teaching student, who added a photograph of different projects that she had put together, lesson plans with artifacts and things like that on a desk. And so I thought that that was really cute and creative and gave great insight into what she wants to do. So definitely think about your chosen industry and finding that background photo that will really tell a story about what you aspire to do. Now, I want to point out the location as the next part. So that's important because you are more likely to be reached out to by local recruiters for opportunities in the area. So if you indicate that you are in Houston, you are more likely to be reached out to by recruiters who are looking for candidates within the Houston area. So something that's really important to make sure that your profile has. I also want to point out, it's not on this list, but you see her headline. So Connie Chan Wang's headline is Director of Global Brand Marketing at LinkedIn. So I want to point this out because many times I see our students who use student at University of Houston downtown, just, you know, that line. And for me, that doesn't give a full picture of what it is that you want to do. And so I like for my students to say what it is that they're aspiring to do. So not just labeling yourself as a student at University of Houston downtown, but maybe, you know, education student and aspiring special education teacher, you know, just something like that, that labels, hey, this is what I'm looking to achieve. So, okay, now we're going to jump down to the summary section. So the first 3 lines are the most important part of your summary. And the reason for that is because the employer, if they're interested in you, only gets to see the first 3 lines unless they click that drop down arrow that says show more. So we have to make sure that these first 3 lines really accurately summarize what it is that we bring to the table, either so that we catch their interest and they continue reading, or just so that they get a clear idea of, you know, what our strengths are. So this is something that's really important, and it's kind of similar to the summary or objective statement that you might already have on your resume. So if you want, you can take that, copy and paste it here, and then tweak it a little bit. Of course, adding some personality and, you know, flair into it so they can get a taste of who you are. Now you see with the experiences, so we want to make sure that we're going in reverse chronological order, meaning that your most recent experiences are on top. So again, this is another section where you can copy and paste things from your resume into here. But one of the great things is you can see in this example that Connie has got like links, she's got documents attached, she's got photos and videos. So that's a really cool thing about LinkedIn, is that you can add these media pieces so that people can actually see examples of the work that you're doing, and also maybe get an idea of your work ethic from, you know, these videos and different pieces of documents and things like that that you've developed yourself. Okay, and so now we're going to the education section. So one thing that's really important is to make sure that you spell out the name of the university accurately so that it tags the university. So you see in this sample that both of the universities that are listed here have the actual logos beside them. And that's something that we see pretty frequently. Same with the experience section. We'll see that sometimes students won't list the name of their place of business exactly as it was. So then it doesn't link up to the actual company. But this is something that's really important because let's say, you know, somebody from University of Houston downtown is recruiting for a position, and they get notified that you are here in LinkedIn. If they do a search for other University of Houston downtown affiliated LinkedIn members, then that is going to be an established connection. So you want to make sure that you write out the name of the university so that that little logo pops up beside it. And for the education section, it's going to be very similar to your resume as well. You're going to be able to include things like activities that you're doing, any honors that you've received, scholarships, things of that nature. And then you see a section for skills and endorsements. So also like a resume, we have a skills section on that. We have a skills section here too. And we do encourage you to select at least 5 skills that you think are appropriate for your chosen industry. But one of the great things about LinkedIn is that you can have people endorse your skills. So you may be able to go to colleagues, classmates, professors, and ask them, hey, can you go onto my LinkedIn profile and endorse some of the skills that I've selected? So you see here in this example, social media for Connie. It says that she was endorsed by 10 people. So they were able to say, yes, Connie says that she's skilled in social media, and she absolutely is endorsed in social media. Or not endorsed, she's absolutely strong in social media. So they verified, yes, she is good in this area. So I think that that's great, because if the person recognizes maybe the name of one of the people who's endorsed you, then they may really, take it seriously and say, wow, that's impressive. So-and-so said that she's skilled in social media, and that's exactly what we're looking for this social media manager position. So this is just a great checklist that you can look at, and we've got copies of this in our office if you'd like one. So make sure for your profile to really stand out that you do complete the checklist. As I mentioned, it's really easy to transfer information from your resume to your profile. So you can copy and paste and then just tweak accordingly, adding more detail or, photos, videos, things like that as you'd like. Make sure to adjust your privacy settings. I know sometimes it can be nerve-wracking to have our profile be public, but it's really important for LinkedIn just to make sure that you're opening the door for the most opportunities possible. So, adjust your privacy settings, make sure that they're public, and let recruiters know that you're open to job opportunities. That way they can send messages to you if there's a job that matches up with your credentials. And we also have a LinkedIn profile, so I hope that you all will choose to connect with us on there. And we post a lot of different positions. We post about events that are coming up. We share student success stories, all sorts of good stuff. So definitely connect with us on LinkedIn. So this is just a screenshot of what it looks like when you adjust your privacy settings. So you'll see, you go to where it says account and settings at the top, and you click that privacy and settings button so that you can go ahead and change your different options there to make your profile public. So some quick tips, make sure to update your profile when needed. So some examples of when you might need to update your profile: if you've moved, if you've changed positions, maybe if you acquired a new degree or passed a certain exam related to your industry. Those would definitely be some times to update your profile. You want to make sure that your profile photo is also recent. So make sure that it's a photo that's been taken at least within the last year. I had a student one time that had used a high school photo when they had graduated from high school at least 20 years prior. So it was clearly obvious that the photo was old. So we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that our photo is recent and that it looks like us. Make sure that you review your profile for typos. You want to make sure that the message you want to get across is what's being read. I can give you an example. I had a student who submitted a resume one time, so not on LinkedIn, but within a resume, and she wanted to indicate that she was a proactive student, and instead what she wrote was that she was a provocative student. And those are two very different words. They have two very different meanings. And so, spell check didn't pick that up because those are definitely two real words, but that wasn't her intended message. So remember that this is an indicator of your level of professionalism. So you want to go through every section where you enter text and make sure that there is no typos of any sort. Be strategic by including industry-specific keywords in your profile. And you should know or have an idea of what those are based on the classes that you've taken, maybe some words that you hear constantly, assessment, case management, I'm talking social work here, empathy, active listening, So you should kind of have an idea of what those are. And if you don't, you can always meet with your career coach to get an idea, or do a simple Google search and type in keywords for teaching industry, and see what pops up there. Now, you can also personalize your URL so that you can include it within application materials like your resume. So when you have a LinkedIn profile, a URL is automatically created for you. It usually has your name plus a bunch of numbers and letters. So you can actually customize it, so that maybe it's simpler, shorter in length, and then you're able to include that more easily on your resume. So when you feel like your profile is looking pretty good, you may want to go ahead and copy that URL so that you can paste it within the body of your resume. And then make sure to connect with people you don't know. I know that can be nerve-wracking, but LinkedIn is, I think, a comfortable way to do that. Especially if there's a particular company you want to work for, or a role that you want to have, it's great to reach out, send a message to someone and say, hey, I see that you are a case manager at Memorial Hermann, and I would love to learn how you acquired that role. Tell me about your journey, something along those lines. And you never know what kind of opportunity might come just from a simple message. Really briefly, I want to mention LinkedIn Learning. So this is a resource that we have here at UHD. So LinkedIn Learning is just a set of online courses that you can participate in on subjects ranging from customer service all the way to different software programs. So there's a big range of different topics out there. And if you have a LinkedIn profile, then one of the great things is that when you complete a course in LinkedIn Learning, it's going to be connected to your profile. So a recruiter may be able to say, oh, I see, Arrianna did a training on customer service. That's great, because this particular role that I have a vacancy for is focused on customer service. So I think that this is something that will just build your resume. So often we have students that come to us and say, I don't have a lot of experience. So what kinds of things can I do to make my resume look more marketable? It's things like completing courses in LinkedIn Learning. It just enhances your expertise in a certain subject area. So just wanted to briefly mention that, since that's something we have access to here at UHD. So before I jump into the paycheck and benefits piece, does anyone have a question for me about LinkedIn?
I have a few questions, but I can wait until after the benefits portion.
Okay, awesome.
If anyone has any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. I will be more than happy to ask for you if you're shy, or just hop on the mic.
Okay, then I guess we'll go ahead and jump into just being able to interpret your paycheck and understanding different benefits that may be offered to you at a place of employment. So starting with required benefits. So there are certain benefits that companies are required by federal and/or state law to provide to their employees. So those include things like family medical leave, Social Security and Medicare tax payments that they pay on your behalf, unemployment insurance, disability insurance, workers' compensation in case there's an accident on the job site, and then time off for civic duties like voting or jury duty. But then companies also have the option of providing other benefits that just helps, I think, with really being able to market a position. It also helps with staff satisfaction, staff health, things of that nature, work-life balance. So they don't have to offer these to you, but they might. And some of the things that they may offer are paid vacation or paid time off for things like holidays, They may offer you health insurance that's going to cover things like wellness exams, medications, medical treatments, and that can be for yourself. You can also elect to, for a little additional cost, maybe add on a health plan for a spouse or for a child. So that's something that some businesses may offer to you. Some offer life insurance. So they'll take out a small policy for you. Some will help towards retirement with things like employee pension plans or 401ks. So this is where a percentage of your pre-tax earnings go towards a retirement savings. And then some employers may even sweeten that deal by either contributing to your retirement or even matching a certain percentage. So, I know, for example, my husband's company matches 5%, up to 5% of what he puts in towards his retirement account, which is a pretty sweet benefit. Some companies offer wellness programs. Here at UHD, for example, we get fitness release time. So if we want to go to the gym, we're able to do that 3 times a week for 30 minutes each time. So that's a unique benefit that we are offered. Some companies will offer tuition reimbursement. One of the things, though, that I like to point out about this is that if a company offers you tuition reimbursement, a lot of the time they're asking you to sign a contract that locks you in for a certain number of years. So if for some reason you leave that company sooner than your contract time span, you may have to pay the company back for the tuition that you had to utilize towards your degree. Some companies will offer flexible hours. So maybe if an 8 to 5 schedule isn't for you, maybe they'll allow you to work 9 to 6 or 10 to 7 or 7 to 4, whatever schedule, really accommodates you. With COVID, we've definitely seen a boost in work from home benefits because we've shown that we can still be productive from our home environments. Some companies may offer ownership in their own company stock as a benefit. Others might offer performance bonuses, or if you have to move for a position, some companies may offer relocation assistance. And again, these are not required by the companies to offer to you, but it's something to keep in mind. I've had students before debating between a couple of different job offers, and one may have a smaller salary, but maybe it includes health insurance, life insurance, and retirement. And then the other company may have a higher salary, but they don't offer any benefits. And so then I'll really, challenge the student. I know that the higher salary may sound more tempting, but when you actually look at the cost of what you're getting, with the company paying for your health insurance, taking out a life insurance policy for you, and contributing to your retirement plan, you'll see that actually is worth more in value than the higher salary at this other place. So definitely something to think about. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at this paycheck and kind of give you an idea of what each section might mean. So what these paychecks typically are divided into 4 sections: personal and check information, earnings, deductions, and withholding. So if we take a look at this check, you'll see with number 1, like we've got the period. So it's, the pay period, start and end date, as well as the date that the check was issued. We've also got on here, of course, like the employee's name, their employee ID number, the office where they're located, especially if, maybe they're working for an organization that has multiple locations. You can see in the earnings section with number 5 that there's different types of earnings that are acquired here. And that just depends on some of the benefits that an organization might have. For example, I get a gross, monthly salary that's listed here, but then I also, because I've been working for the state of Texas, get for a while, get a little bit of longevity pay. So it's an additional I want to say it's like $100. It may be less than that, but I get a little extra every month just because I've been working for the state of Texas for a little while. And so that will show up as another item underneath the gross earnings rather than just whatever my designated salary is supposed to be every month. Now, looking at the deductions piece, so this is where it's going to be for things like health insurance, disability insurance, withholding for things like federal and state income tax or Medicare tax. So you can kind of see in section 6 the different types of withholdings that are there. So you see federal tax, additional federal income tax that was withheld, state tax, and then Medicare tax. So that additional federal income tax, you have a right when you are completing your paperwork for onboarding to indicate if you would like to withhold additional money every month from your paycheck. And some people choose to do that, just anticipating that when taxes come around every April, that they may owe money back to the government. So then withholding extra money may reduce your chances of having to pay back a bigger lump sum of money in April. We'll get to that within the next slide, talking more about that. But this is just an idea of some of the different pieces that you're going to see on a paycheck and what they mean. Okay, so now jumping into the taxes piece. So first, you have federal income taxes that are withheld. So this is something that's required by the federal government. It is dependent on the number of allowances that you indicated when you were completing your onboarding forms. So again, you know, I, for example, am married, but when I complete my paperwork, I've indicated that I would like to file jointly, but file as if single, so that I can make sure that the most money is withheld as possible, so that the chances of me owing in April are less. But you should know that the more allowances you have, that means the less money that's taken from your monthly paycheck. So I had a student that called, for example, for help with this section, and I know that she's a single parent and head of household. So we talked about, you know, some of the different, you know, allowances that she would want to indicate on her form. But just keep in mind, you know, when you have multiple allowances, that may mean, again, that you might owe more money at the end of the year when taxes come around. So it might be that you have more money every month on your paycheck, but then have to pay a big lump sum at once in April. Or it could be, you know, if you withhold more money, you will have less on your paycheck every month, but then may not have to pay a big amount when April comes. Or you could be lucky. Again, it all just depends on your household income. You may be lucky and have many allowances and not have to pay a big lump sum of tax money in April. So just keep in mind that this is, you know, according to your own situation. And then there's state taxes. So that's going to vary, you know, depending on what state you're in. Texas, you know, we have pretty low taxes here compared to some of the other states, which is nice. Social Security. So this is another deduction that's required by federal law. So each worker contributes 6.2% of their gross income, and then their employer must also pay 6.2% on behalf of that employee. So not only are you paying into Social Security, but your employer is also paying 6.2% for you. So that's something to think about. And then Medicare. So Medicare is a government issued insurance plan for Americans 65 and older, or for people under 65 that have certain disabilities. So every worker is required by law to contribute 1.45% of their income. And again, their employer must also contribute 1.45% for each of those employees. So you are paying 1.45%, your employer paying 1.45% on your behalf. So here's a chart with some different acronyms that you might see on your paycheck, and maybe you don't understand what they mean. So we're going to go over them really quickly. So gross pay. So this is the total amount of money that you earned during a pay period. Okay, so this is the big number because this is before all of the other deductions. So if you see FED, FIT, or FITW, those could indicate federal income tax withheld. So that's what those mean. If you see state, SIT, or SITW, that means the state in which money was earned. So for us, of course, that would be Texas. If you see OASDI, FICA, SS, SOC, SEC, that's going to stand for Social Security tax. So it could be, one of those acronyms that's used. MED, that's pretty simple, stands for Medicare. FSA or HSA, that's another optional benefit that an employer may offer for these flexible spending accounts or health savings accounts. So what that is, for example, UHD gives the option for a health savings account. So you can take out pre-tax dollars from your paycheck every month and put that towards this savings account that goes for health-related expenses. So let's say maybe you have a medication that you take monthly and that it's quite expensive, and even with your health insurance, it still is expensive. You can pull some money out of your paycheck every month to save to go towards that rather than having to pay a larger amount. And of course, again, the benefit is that it's pre-tax dollars. So, okay, so looking 401k, so again, that is related to retirement. Net pay, so that's the total amount of money that you received after deductions have already been made. GARN stands for wage garnishment. And then if you have child support that you have been ordered to pay, you may see that being pulled from your check. And so the code would be CHSPPRT for child support. Okay, so that concludes our presentation. We do have a survey that we'd like for you all to complete. The link is here for you, tinyurl.com/CDC pilot, and you'll select Are You Career Ready from the drop-down menu. So while we have this up, I want to go ahead and address any questions that anyone might have. So this is definitely your time if you'd like to unmute your mics and ask some questions or type something in the chat. We'd be happy to get to those.
Would you guys be able to post the URL in the chat?
Yes, ma'am.
So I took some notes. I have some questions. You addressed some of them, actually probably most of them, but I thought it would be helpful to kind of go back over. How can you tell actual recruiters from scammers on LinkedIn?
I think it's a great idea to go look at their profile. If you are able to do that. I know, sometimes we can only see certain aspects of a profile, but it's kind of like we do with, with all social media platforms where we can go and check out somebody's profile to see if they look legitimate. I also think you can even do a Google search. Sometimes we can type in the name of the person and the name of the company, and there may be something that pops up. Maybe you'll see an email that's affiliated with them or an article where they're mentioned for doing a certain project or something with this organization. So those are just a couple of things that I would recommend to make sure it's an actual person and not somebody who's trying to scam you.
Very good information. So this was one of the questions from the last session. How often should you check your LinkedIn or be active on it?
Yeah, so I feel like you should be checking your LinkedIn daily, and studies also show that too. And I know that's hard because we have so many other responsibilities, things that are going on that it's really hard to find the time to do that, but it's really critical. And being active daily doesn't necessarily mean that you have to post something daily. It could be that you are commenting on somebody else's post. It could be sharing somebody's post. It could even be just liking somebody's post. So, showing that you're active on a daily basis is going to be key so that you are continuously, popping up on somebody's feed. As when you're active, you show up on somebody's feed.
Okay. How can you tailor your profile to the, quote unquote, right audience, your targeted audience versus just accepting anyone and everyone?
Again, it's going to be reliant on including those keywords for your industry. I think that that's so important. So as I mentioned, if you're not quite sure what some good keywords for your industry would be, you can always do a Google search, or you can meet with your career coach so we can talk more about that. I also think, elaborating on the experiences that you've had that are relevant for the industry that you want to go into. So, if you want to be a teacher, for example, you may want to elaborate more on your student teaching experiences than you would maybe if you had a job like at Chick-fil-A. Like maybe you want to provide a couple of details about some of the things that you did in that restaurant job, but really elaborate more on the responsibilities and accomplishments that you had in those roles that are related to your desired industry.
This kind of leans into that same question. What if you don't have any work experience or volunteer experience? How do you tailor your profile to employers without those?
So, yeah, so believe it or not, that this is something that we see commonly. And we also see it with our freshman students that come in and they're like, hey, I don't have, work history or volunteer experience. So what can I do to start building my resume now? This is when I like to refer back to those competencies that Arrianna talked about early on. So those NACE competencies, the ones that we know employers are looking for in every role that you are active in, whether it be as a student or a group project member, as an employee or a student organization member, you are utilizing those skills. So, you were practicing teamwork and communication, and critical thinking and technology, even just working on a group project in one of your classes. So really thinking about the experiences that you participate in on a daily basis, and where you're using those skills that we know employers are seeking. That's the kind of thing that we want for you to focus on when you don't have a lot or any relevant experiences to list.
So there's a question in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and ask it.
Sure.
Let's see. If someone were to switch careers, would you try to tailor your listed experience to the things that are relevant to your desired position? Or should you put everything in it, even if it's irrelevant to your new career? Also, what if you had little experience in your new desired career, but tons in something else?
So yes, so to answer your question, you definitely would want to try to tailor your resume towards the experience that you are now pursuing. And we see that quite often. We call them career transitioners here in our office. So then we would talk to you about having, rather than a reverse chronological essay, resume, which is going to have all of your more recent experiences on the top, we'll tell you to list what's most applicable first. So we would create like a relevant experience section and be able to list the experiences that are the most relevant for the position that you're seeking. Now you asked if you have little experience in your new desired career. This is when, we recommend things like adding in courses that you've taken. Maybe you want to study forensic science, and all of your background has been in retail. Maybe listing out the different forensic science courses that you've completed, lab equipment that you know how to utilize, different lab techniques that you've learned. So thinking about the things that you're doing in your classes, or you also can utilize something like LinkedIn Learning that we talked about earlier. So, if there's an area where you feel like you're lacking, you can take some online courses and be able to include those in your resume as well. We had a student who was really interested in coding and programming, but had been out of the IT world for a little while she was a mother. And so one of the things that we encouraged her to do was to take some online coursework to get caught up with the newest trends in programming languages and things like that. So she took some online coursework in SQL and some other programs Java, so she would be able to list those on her resume, even though it had been a little while since she had been out of the industry.
She said, thank you.
You're very welcome. Yes.
Those were great questions. Seriously, they were great.
Yes.
Is it really necessary to join LinkedIn groups?
It's not necessary to join LinkedIn groups, but I think it would be helpful. Again, we know networking is important. And so even though you can network individually on LinkedIn, I think it doesn't hurt to have more than one avenue for networking contacts. So I would say that it's a good idea to do. If you're just 100% against it, then you don't have to, but I think it's going to possibly create more opportunities for you if you do.
Thank you. We're gonna keep on going to the next question.
Yeah.
Should you ask? Thank you. Look, I appreciate y'all indulging my questions. I know that I've had students ask me these questions, and so I thought, well, let's go ahead and ask.
Why not? Yeah, exactly.
On the line. Should you ask people for recommendations or endorsements, or allow them to come to your profile organically?
I think a bit of both, honestly. I think if you have the kind of relationship with someone where you feel comfortable going to them and saying, hey, could you please give me a recommendation on my profile? And I'll happily, give one back. I think that's a nice thing. And especially, looking for that mutually beneficial kind of relationship. But I think it is also nice when someone can organically go to your profile. I know when I created my LinkedIn profile, when I started working here, I think I had a student right away that went in and endorsed my skills. And I was like, oh, wow, yes, I know what I'm doing. He just came here on his own and did this. So I think a bit of both is a good thing. If you have a close relationship, I would say definitely and ask that person and see if you can, do the same in return for them. But, also allowing for some organic feedback is nice too.
I love that. I wish someone would go ahead and endorse my profile.
That's a hint for people who are attending today for TANs. Go at her and endorse her.
I don't have a profile, but I sure can do it, Miss Tidwell.
You're so sweet. I love y'all. See, that's what I'm talking about. I love the support. Let me update it first and then go ahead and endorse me.
Yes.
How can you show your passion in your profile and your post without sounding or it looking like a Twitter rant, a Facebook or Instagram, Snapchat post.
I mean,
First
I
try.
think, yeah, I think that the most important thing when it comes to that is just considering your language. I think, you know, making sure that the tone in your message is not coming off in a way that could be construed as angry or offensive. So I think energy and enthusiasm is a good thing. But I would say, you know, refrain from anything that really showcases a very strong opinion or maybe can be construed in a negative light. I also just kind of like to, I know it's a little bit of a cop out, but I like to stay away from controversial topics like religion and politics because, you know, people feel so differently on those conversation pieces. And so I like to think of LinkedIn as more of a place for, you know, focusing again on our professional accomplishments and achievements. So, you know, so think about the topics that you're engaging with. Think about the tone that you are using in your messages. Even little things like making sure that you're not capitalizing every letter in your post, which can come off as, you know, yelling. So there's certain things. Oh, I see Ari has her hand up, so I'm going to see if she has something to add. Go ahead, Ari.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. I do have something to add to this current question because oftentimes, and I see it myself on LinkedIn, you'll see people that they consider themselves as a disruptor. So for instance, I follow someone, I actually know her beyond LinkedIn as well, just through various networking things, but she, in her headline, she has HR disruptor. And so she is considering herself as a person that is, you know, seeking to challenge the current day HR world. And there's nothing wrong with that. I do think a lot of HR processes do need to be revamped, reevaluated, updated. However, you will see people post things about how they feel about businesses or about a department. And although you may agree with them, you might want to refrain from reposting or retweeting, or not retweeting, but reposting and sharing it because like Lisa mentioned, you want to stay away from strong opinions because you never know who may see that. So my rule of thumb, before I ever click a share or celebrate button on LinkedIn, I always think and ask myself, will I be okay if someone brings this up to me? And so there are going to be times where you completely agree with something that you see, but you have to be ready to be addressed about something in the event that it comes back up. But that was all that I wanted to share.
Yeah, and I see Victoria has a hand up. So Victoria, did you have something you wanted to ask or something you wanted to share?
I did have a question actually.
Sure.
So is there a way to, you were talking about reading your paycheck earlier and the code next to the numbers being taken out. And I was wondering, is there a way to make sure that they're taking the correct amount of income tax out of your paycheck, like with the code next to it? Where I work, they don't take a ton of income tax out. And so when I filed for taxes this year, my husband and I filed jointly and we ended up not owing, but my paycheck didn't take enough out. So our return went down a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, I promise I've been there, girl. I completely empathize with that. So, I mean, what you want to do is you want to meet with your HR specialist that handles all of that paperwork and talk to her about that. You may choose to withhold an extra $100 or, you know, even $50, whatever you feel amount would align maybe with how much your return went down. So you can go and ask, hey, can I withhold an extra, you know, $50 every month because I really want to make sure that we don't owe anything, or that, you know, we can also get the maximum return when we file in April. So that's definitely something that you can talk to your HR specialist about.
Okay.
There's lots of people that do that. Our colleague Wendy, for example, I think withholds an extra $100 from her paycheck every month, just to make sure that when April comes, she's not scrambling, you know, to pull together, you know, an extra amount of money. Sometimes it's hard for us to come up with a bigger lump sum. So
Right. Yeah. And I had noticed that it had changed, like the little code next to the income tax had changed. And then like after I filed jointly, and then it like changed back to whatever it had been
no.
previously. So I wasn't sure if that was, I wasn't sure if there was a way to like read the code and make sure it was correct code, but just talk to my HR specialist.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Talk to your HR specialist. I see Ari has her hand up, so maybe she also has something to add to this. And she is our
No,
HR.
I just didn't put it back down. I'm sorry.
Okay, I wondered because she's got her special HR certification here, so I wondered if maybe she had something additional to add. But yeah,
Well,
definitely. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, while I have the mic, no, I completely agree with you, Lisa, for her to definitely check with the HR rep that manages that paperwork, because you'd be surprised sometimes. It's just a matter of checking into that kind of stuff, and then sometimes some people don't realize with those documents you should probably check on every year. I know some jobs make employees fill them out every year, and some do not, and it's your responsibility to go to them. But I recommend checking out all of your documents every year, just so that you are up to date on what, you know, is on there. And that's not just for your financial documents, but that's also for like benefits and stuff like that, because you just never know how much things change in a year and you just kind of forget about them. So I would like to take tax time as a time to review all of your important documents and benefits and information like that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I found out one of my coworkers, they weren't even taking any taxes out for her. So,
Oh wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if maybe it was
An error of some
if there's
sort.
an error going on. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Okay, do we have any other questions?
I have two more questions. One, my mouth is agape at what Victoria just said. That is crazy. I saw Ariana's mouth agape too. I said, okay, no taxes, okay. Can employers, current or past or potential future ones, ask you to update your LinkedIn profile?
Can they ask you to do that? I mean, I'm sure that they can ask you, but should they? No, they shouldn't. You know, I can tell you in the last job that I had, it was encouraged that all of our student employees create a social media account if they did not have one. And I think that the purpose was so that our supervisors could keep an eye on what students were doing in their personal lives to make sure that they were appropriate for staff members. And that's something that you can't require. So they can ask you to do it, but unless there's a written policy somewhere that you signed off on, you do not have to if somebody asks for you to do so.
I believe Ariana has her hand raised. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her.
I did. I'm sorry. This is probably so confused. No, I was gonna say, yeah, no one should be asking you to do that unless, like Lisa said, you sign something, but also if your position pertains to it. So if you are a recruiter recruiting on LinkedIn, then of course it's appropriate to update your LinkedIn profile, since you are a direct reflection of the company and an extension too of them by recruiting for them. But aside from it being required or being asked of you, you should actually want to update your profile, because you don't want to be at a job that's not on your LinkedIn and it's still showing that your current job is something that you haven't done in the past 6 or 9 months. And so you just want to make sure you are proactive in doing stuff like that, like updating and swapping things out, because you want to make sure that, again, this goes back to networking, that people may come across your profile. And if they see that you're doing something that maybe you've changed your career and you're doing something else now, and now they don't see that because you didn't change it or update it. So you may have lost out on some sort of potential opportunity or just a networking connection with someone. So I'd say not to be so concerned with the employer asking, but rather you should take that initiative to do that yourself.
Good information. This is why I love this workshop. It just, the first one was already mind blowing, and then this one is just like, just on a whole nother level. Leah stated, I recall a professor last year requiring us to create a Facebook profile. It felt really weird that it was required for a grade and is now just out there. That's how I ended up with Facebook, and that's how they can stalk you now. Yep, I agree.
Yep, exactly. That's why I said it was uncomfortable for me when I was in this role, you know, and my supervisor asked all the student staff to create accounts. So I was like, wow, you know, and I knew why she was doing it and I understood, but at the same time, I mean, you can't force something like that.
Right.
We had, it's not related to social media, but about a year ago, I had a student who was doing an interview, and prior to her interview, so they had just read her application materials, but prior to her interview for a case manager position, so social work position, not anything related to the arts or anything like that, they asked her for a photo of herself. And so that, you know, she contacted me and was like, this seems a little weird that they want to see a picture of me. You know, and I thought that was odd too, that this place was requiring a photo. You know, so I encouraged her not to do that just in case, you know, it allowed for her to be subjected to any sort of prejudice. But, you know, of course, I'm sure they could still go look her up on social media. But I just thought it was odd that they, you know, prior to her coming in for her interview said, we would like a photo of you. So, you know, I just thought that was unusual.
Yeah, see, no, you'll see me in person. I have one last question, and I believe, Ariana, you answered it the first session, so I thought I would ask it again. How can you show or quantify your work to ask for a promotion or positive evaluation at work?
Okay, yeah, so you want to start with setting goals. And so everything, whether it's your personal life or professional life, you want to make sure that you are goal setting with a purpose and make sure that the goals are measurable. So the example that I like to give is in your role, if you set a goal or you and your supervisor set a goal together for you to complete 3 presentations within a certain amount of time, you now have something that is measurable and you know exactly what needs to be done. In order to be able to prove that you exceeded those expectations, you would, of course, need to do more than the 3 presentations. And so depending on how many more you do, you can then provide your supervisor or whoever you need to go to talk to. If it's about a raise or anything like that, you can show them, hey, I was expected to only do this, but I actually did this, and this is a 50%, you know, increase, or even if it's 100% increase, if you did an extra 3, you can then show that, and now you are proving that your work was done, and you also can quantify how you're getting it done. And so that way it's not like an up in the air thing where you're like, oh no, I just feel like I'm doing a good job. You know, we all feel like we are doing a good job, and you probably really are doing a great job, but you want to start making sure you think about it strategically. And so that means starting with your goals. Whatever your goals are, you're going to make sure you try to exceed them, surpass them, and go beyond. So that way, when it's time to reevaluate you or ask for a raise, you'll have the proper proof, I like to call it, that you need to be able to show this to your employer. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to guarantee you a raise or a promotion or whatever it is that you're seeking. But what it does is it does demonstrate to your supervisor or whoever it is that you know what you're doing, number one, and you are exceeding the goals. And that will be something that they actually cannot deny, especially if you have the hard work to prove it.
And speaking of work, okay, so this kind of goes on to that same topic. When you're updating your resume based on, the things you've done, so you've sat down, you've created these goals, you've accomplished those goals, and similar to what Leah was asking earlier, maybe it's time for a career change. Now you're updating your resume. What is an appropriate length? So someone that's working 5 to 10 years or 0 to 5 years of experience, is a 2-page resume okay? Or someone that's had 20 years of experience, is a 5-page resume? Like, what is an appropriate length of a resume for someone with, little to no time, medium time, and then someone that had years of experience? And then that will be the end of that will close out our session.
So you still want to keep your resume as concise as possible. The average amount of time that a hiring manager takes to look at a resume is only 6 seconds. I know that that's crazy to think about, but that's what research shows, 6 seconds. So that usually means that the recruiter maybe knows exactly what it is that they want to look for. Maybe they just want to read the summary section on your resume. Maybe they want to look at your education, but whatever it is that they're looking at, they're going straight for that. And when you have a resume that is long, that just discourages someone from wanting to read through all of that. I know I've had some students that have had that misconception, the longer the resume, the better, right? And I'm like, no, you want to be concise. So you want to focus on the most relevant experiences and skills that you bring to the table. If you have not been in an industry for long, you definitely should have a 1-pager. And that should be focused on things like the competencies that Arrianna mentioned, where you're getting to apply those. Maybe if you've conducted some relevant research projects or papers for your classes, if you've participated in relevant trainings or have certifications that apply for the industry you want to go into, you can have those sorts of things on your 1-pager to help fill it. Now, if you have quite a bit of experience, or even mid-experience, I would say mid to a lot, I would say a 2-pager is fine. I wouldn't recommend going past that. So again, you want to focus on your most relevant experiences. You also, if you've been in an industry for many years, and I've seen it, at UHD, we work with so many different students. I have an 83-year-old CJ student, for example, who's retired and has this really amazing work history. We focus on what's within our most recent 10 years. So that's what we pull from to help kind of condense it. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, if you are a mid to senior level professional, a 2-pager is fine. If you're a brand new entry level, I would keep it to a 1-page. And even if you are a mid to senior level, if you can reduce your resume to 1-page, even better. But 2 is acceptable.
Well, that answers all of my questions. Oh, Arrianna has her hand raised. Go ahead, Arrianna, take it away.
I just want to jump in really quick and piggyback with Lisa, because I know, this presentation is for students. So I'm actually still an MBA student right now myself. And I know going back to people thinking the longer the resume, the better it must be if you included all that information. Well, in my MBA program, even my professors have stopped giving us limits on our papers. I know in undergrad, it's common for the professor to say a 3-page double spaced, whatever paper, or they'll give you a word count or things like that. Well, I've actually seen it go away in this master's program, and I see that Tan is saying the same thing. And what they're doing is they're teaching us to stop being so wordy and thinking that the more words, the better. They're basically telling us that we need to focus on the gist of it. Like, what is it that we're trying to get across, and how fast can you do it, and in how few words? And so every time a student goes, well, is there a word requirement or is there a page requirement? And go, well, no, they said just answer the questions or the topic, and you'll see from there. And so I think it applies to resumes too. Don't focus so much on being so wordy and providing all that information, because 9 times out of 10, the things that you did in each of your jobs are not focused on what you're trying to do in this job you're trying to get. And so, and that's a whole nother conversation or presentation about tailoring your resume to the job that you want. And so that will cut back on all of the wordiness and the lengthiness of your resume.
Well, this was wonderful. I think we're going to have to cut it here. It is past 2 o'clock, so we do need to cut it short. But if anyone has any questions, Lisa, Ariana, could you please post your information in the chat?
Absolutely.
This will be posted on the Pathways YouTube page. You guys can always come back and review this information. Please share it with everyone. This was so wonderful. Can I please have you guys give them some reactions? They were amazing. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you, Ariana. This was awesome.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you all for being with us on this
Thank
Friday
you.
afternoon.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.